Alright, welcome aviation fans and followers and enthusiasts. We're getting ready to crank up the bearing. I've already done my pre-flight. I'm going to get my seat where I want it here. We're going to shove everything forward, mixtures forward, props forward, throttle forward, everything forward. Turn on both batteries, both alternators. The beacon is already on. We've got to wait for our avionics to come up, our screen, our PFD, so that I can see my oil pressure for start. Alright. And then we'll get her started up. Alright, here it comes. There we go, we're good. We got lots of fuel. Alright, I'm going to start with priming the left engine first. I'm going to go to low, I'll listen for it, and then I'll go to high. And I'm watching for fuel flow. Alright, so you ready? Here we go. I can hear it. And then high, it goes up, it peaks out, turn it off. I'll pull the throttle back, crack it just a little bit, and then I'm gonna crank it. Here we go. Clear on the left. Here we go, we're gonna turn the switch. 1,000 RPM, oil pressure's coming up. Pull it back to 1,000 RPM. Oil pressure's coming up. It is a little slow to come up sometimes to read, but we've got oil pressure. Alright, I'm going to do the left engine, the right engine, and I can't hear the pump on low, but I'll turn it and you'll see it barely move, it trickles, and then I'll go to high. Same thing, it peaks out, turn that off, throttle comes back, we crack it a little bit, we'll crank the left, or the right, clear on the right, nobody's out there. Man, 1,000 RPM. Pressure's coming up, it's moving, and you hear there's a little bit of a delay, but it's coming up right away. Alright, I'll ease the right one back a little. And then we're going to get the avionics on. And then all of these gauges will move over to the MFD as soon as it boots up. I'm going to pull my uncage that. We'll get that going. Alright. And that's it for now. I think I'll stop this camera. I think I'm going to stop this camera and we'll turn that one on and we'll continue with that one. Okay, stay tuned. Alright, welcome. We got the airplane running. We're waiting for our oil temperature to come up before we can do our run up. But while I'm just sitting here, I'm going to set my 3,000 feet, hit my go around button to pull that up, the V bars. We'll type in Greensboro to Beaufort KMRH. And yes, I could have them saved as a favorite, but you're still getting almost the same number of button or knob turns. I'm going to go into my PDC clearance and put our squawk code in there, 1164. Oops, what happened there? 1164. 1164 is in there. Our clearance is 3,000, expect 7 and 10. Departure frequency is 26.6. The current ATIS is Gulf. The winds are 210 at 5, 10 miles visibility, broken at 9,500, overcast at 25,000. Temperature 9, dew point 1. Altimeter 3026. Set that twice. That's good. And then we're going to move over here to do our run up. We're waiting for the oil temperature to come up, and it will momentarily. We've got Gulf. If we listen to it, you'll hear it, but it's Gulf. The digital ATIS is the same.
For clearance and taxi instruction.
And then the main thing, I'm going to spin around.
Live on initial. Contact. You have information Gulf.
We have information Gulf, right? And I'll let you guys listen to it.
Greensboro Airport AITIS information Golf 17540. Wind 210 at 5. Visibility 10. 9,500 broken. 5,000 overcast. Temperature 9. Dew point 1. Altimeter 3026. Visual approach 23 right.
Alright, we're almost warm enough. Not quite. I'm going to set the parking brake. I'll get the heater on while we're waiting. The main thing with the heater is you always have to have the blower on the ground or it'll overheat. The heater does not, the blower actually doesn't work in flight. It uses just fresh air to force the air through the system. So we're getting very close. And then you'll hear some people say when they call their clearance, they say PDC 1164. I just tell them I'm ready to taxi. They know I've got the PDC, or at least they do here. Radars come up. A little rain around where we're at, but we're going toward that way. I don't know why our flight plan is like that.
King Air 264 Papa Alpha, Greensboro ground, text to Corey via Delta 1, cross runway 14, Alpha 2 to Corey.
Right, Delta 1, cross 14.
Oh, it's in OBS mode. How do I hit that? Oh, that was weird. Alright, now we're in, I was wondering why we had that weird line. I must have when I tipped my transponder, I put it in OBS mode. Alright, now we're warm enough. I'm going to run it up to 1700 RPMs, and I do them both at the same time. Because it's too hard to hold asymmetrical brakes, you know, one engine pulling on you. So it's easier just, and it just has to be somewhere close. We're going to do the mag check just like any other piston. Alright, so we're good on that side. We're good on that side. I'm going to do 2200 RPM for the prop check. And this one also just has to be somewhere close. Alright, so that checks. And then we do 1500 RPMs for the feather check. Alright. And then we do an annunciator test, which checks those lights. Everything else is in the CAS system. Alright, so we're good. Ground bearing 683 Delta Delta is ready taxi from signature with Golf.
Bearing 683 Delta Delta, Greensboro ground, runway 23 left, taxi via Kilo 6.
23 left, Kilo 6, 683 Delta Delta. Alright, here we go. Clear on the left, clear on the right. Brakes are good, steering is good. So, hope you guys have been doing well. If you ever look in the checklist for the run-up, or do the check, I'm kind of doing it in a different order than the checklist has you do it.
Bearing 3 Delta Delta, just let me know if you want an intersection departure on your way out. I could shut a little quicker.
Roger. Alright, I'm gonna bug 170. Usually with passengers, I don't like to take intersections, but by myself, I might. Let's see, is that somebody on their runway, or is that just lights or something? And 3 Delta Delta can do Kilo 3 if that works.
3 Delta Delta, taxi via Kilo 3, intersection departure. Have a good flight.
Kilo 3, 3 Delta Delta, thank you. Alright, so he was taking off. Alright, but what I was going to say is, the checklist, I'll look once we get going at the checklist to show you the order. It's in a different order, and I'll explain my logic. Alright, we're going to switch the tower, and we're going to go 26, oops, this is thinking again, let's see. 26.6. That Cirrus, or whatever that is, a little space.
power, bearing 683 Delta Delta is ready to go 23 left from Kilo 3.
Bearing 683 Delta Delta, Greensboro Tower, 5 runway heading, runway 23 left, that's actually Kilo 3, clear for takeoff.
Runway heading, cleared to go 23 left from Kilo 3, 683 Delta Delta. All right, we're going to set runway heading. Usually they give us 170 or 190. What's that? 232, I believe, is the runway heading. All right, you guys ready? Everything looks good. Funnel is clear. Should we lose an engine, God forbid, we'll be ready with our feet, right? The main thing is keep these going straight with your feet. All right, here comes the power. All right, power is set. Airspeed's alive. We'll get back over in the middle. Everything's in the green. There's 85. There goes 90. Rotate. Positive rate. Gears coming up. Lights off. Y'all damp on. And we're going to go heading mode. Pull our prop back.
Remember 91 Whiskey, runway 23 left, clear for the option.
23 left, clear for the option, 91 Whiskey.
November 3 Delta Delta, turn left heading 170 and contact departure.
170 over to departure, 3 Delta Delta, good day. 170. Flippy floppy. We're in the turn. I'm still hand flying. I shallowed my climb out a little bit, about 700 foot a minute now. Range for departure, bearing 683 Delta Delta, 1700, climbing 3000, 170 on the heading.
November 683 Delta Delta, Greensboro departure, radar contact, climb maintain 7000.
7000, 3 Delta Delta. Alright, so we're nice and trim. We're good. Alright, we're looking good, everything's set. Power set, lights are off.
November 4 Kilo Mike, descend and
Go ahead,
maintain.
just autopilot on. I'm going to turn the blower off on the heater. So it's not really needed in flight. And I'm going to get back to the run-up so I can tell you guys where I do it differently. Here's the run-up. On the run-up, they've got everything, all the stuff done, and then it goes to 2200 RPMs prop cycle, then 1700 RPMs do the mags, and then 1500 RPM do the feather check. And the reason I do the mags, and then the prop, and then the feather, is because I like to run it up to 1700 first before I go way up to 20. You know, I just got the oil warm. I want to do it gradually. So I do the 1700, do the mag check. By the time I've done all that, the oil's even warmer and it's been circulating, all that kind of stuff. This is just kind of my logic. And then I go up to 2200 RPM, cycle the prop. You get put oil in the hub. You have to do that prior to doing the feather check. You got to do the prop, right?
320,
And then feather check after that. And it says max drop 300 RPMs. You don't want to let it feather too much because you're bogging the engine down. So you're just making sure it is feathering, that you're checking that it will feather. In the case we lost an engine, we want to make sure we got oil pressure. We'll feather the props, right? That's my logic behind that. All right. As I climb, I'm leaning it to the little CN marker. And because I pulled my props back to 2490 and then back up to 2500, or you don't even have to go back up, but as long as you pull them back to 2490, just somewhere below 2500.
Papa Mike, descend and maintain 3000, Greensboro. That's
it sets it in a cruise climb configuration instead of a maximum continuous power setting, which is what I want.
Mike cleared visual approach.
If we were in high terrain and we needed full power to a certain altitude, we would not do that. Actually, I'd leave them at 2700 RPM. Just
November 3 Delta Delta, turn left direct destination.
Left direct, Beaufort 3 Delta. All right, so we're set. Well, what I do is I bug that to my course line, right, to get the plane turning that way, and then I'm going to hit direct, enter, and then we'll go to nav. And that way you don't even feel it, the autopilot getting squirrely chasing it. It's already headed in the right direction. It's kind of my technique. It seems to be smoother. The GFC 700 is pretty smooth anyways, but the more you can help, the better, right? already, since I'm at 4,000 now, I have to lean a little bit more. And it's just barely moving a little bit, like maybe just a couple of tenths of a gallon per hour. All right, and then our
500 Victor Alpha Greensboro departure, ident, climb, maintain 2000.
after takeoffs. On this checklist, it says 2,700 RPMs, rotated 85.
November 0 Victor Alpha, radar contact, 4 miles.
We do that initially, but once you're clear of obstacles, you want to accelerate. Gear up and climb at 136. Throttle's 25 inches, props 2,500 RPM, or max continuous power would be 2,700 RPMs. We're not doing that in this part of the country. I don't need to clear any mountains or anything. Sync on, and then mixture to the CN marker, so as you climb, you're leaning it.
November 82 Lima, contact Atlanta Center 125.15.
515, 83 Lima, have a good day.
You too.
Then one of my viewers or fans, whatever you want to refer to them as, mentioned something about asking me about how I got my start in aviation and all that, sort of my background, right? So I'll talk about that a little bit, right? I started flying as a kid, right? Ever since I was little. My grandfather had a little airport in Coleridge, North Carolina, a little dirt strip. It was actually a friend of his that he was teaching to fly in Asheboro that owned property in Coleridge. Said, hey, we'll just put a strip on our land, let you fly out of there, right? You can have your own operation, right? So he did that. We're going over Causey now, I think. Yeah, there's Liberty, the battery plant. So anyways, he started with a little airport, little grass strip. We're going to follow that out too now. And I've been around it, so it's very little flying. And I was, out of all my brothers, my brother and sister, my youngest sister wasn't around at the time when we were little. She came along later, but when we were little, early, I was the only one that really had an interest in it. My brother and sister would like to go flying if we were going somewhere. Yeah, like we're going to go camping or whatever. But not really just for the heck of it. I rode along on lessons. My grandfather had little 150s, Cessna 150s. I was jealous of the 152s because they had knots instead of miles per hour. I thought it was more big time, you know. Anyways, he had 150s, little two-seaters, high-wing airplane, trainers. Very small little airplane. And I would ride in the back, in the baggage compartment. I just kind of kneel down in the back. We wouldn't do that nowadays, obviously. I think we did back then. No seatbelt or anything. And actually, one of his little 150s had a little kiddie seat in the back. And we were tiny anyway, so we were always puny little kids. So we didn't take up much space. And I'd ridden around with my brother and sister back there on trips. But anyways, yeah, that's how I got started. He gave me lessons, and in return, I mowed the grass, I mow around the tie down, stuff like that. Just work around the airport, kind of as payment for my lessons. And then as a teenager, I got away from it. Yeah, originally when I was younger, I thought, oh, someday I'm going to take over the airport. I'll be instructing there. And he was an AMP and an IA, so he did annuals and maintenance, and then gave instruction. I thought maybe someday I'll take over this place, but it never came to be. I kind of got sidetracked as a teenager. I don't know if it was just, you know, friends.
November 3 Delta Delta, contact Raleigh approach 132.35.
3235, 3 Delta Delta, good day.
Okay.
Raleigh approach, bearing 683 Delta Delta, 6.6, climbing 7,000.
Bearing 683 Delta Delta, Raleigh approach, Raleigh altimeter 3028.
3028, 3 Delta Delta. Anyways, I got sidetracked. I don't know if it's chasing girls or just hanging out, kind of lost interest in it, got sidetracked. And then a buddy of mine, my best friend in high school really, had family that was in the trucking business. And he ended up bringing a truck home one day from work. And this was when I was in my 20s, early 20s. maybe 20, 19 or 20. And, we took that truck up to the little local park. And he said, I'll teach you to drive it in the parking lot, right? Just drive and learn how to shift, how to double clutch and all that. Oh, cool. And I thought it was the coolest thing, you know. I always like flying. I like driving tractors down at the airport, golf carts, motorcycles. We did it all, right? We just, anything that had wheels or a motor, I was going to learn how to drive it. We had a road packer down there to pack the runway, everything. But anyway,
15070, Roger. And
that's how I got into the trucking business. I started driving. I said, oh, this is cool. And I enjoyed driving as a teenager and in my 20s. And I thought, wow, I could get paid to drive. And trucking companies were hiring at the time. So I went to a little trucking school, got my license, got my CDL, got my foot in the door, drove haul produce for a couple years, and then got on with Old Dominion Freight Lines, their LTL carrier, and ended up driving for them for 29 years. Almost 30, just shy of 30 years. But while I was doing that, I don't know, when I was about 24, I got married, still working at Old Dominion, and I thought, I'm going to pursue my real passion is flying, right? Since then, my grandfather had gotten sick and wasn't really actively instructing anymore or doing any, kind of selling off a lot of the planes. But I wanted to get back into it again, so I started taking lessons again in Greensboro at the Atlantic Aero. Finished up, got my rating. I got one rating. I'd take a little break, recover financially, right? Because it's expensive. Catch up on my money. Got my next rating, you know, instrument rating, commercial, flight instructor, double I. And then I was instructing part-time. Once I got my instructor ratings, I was instructing part-time and still driving a truck, you know, and I was, by then I'd been there long enough to have a scheduled run. So I kind of bid on runs that would work with my flying. So I'd fly like maybe in the morning and then go do my trucking route or whatever in the afternoon or evening. So I kind of worked around it. Then I found out that Old Dominion had some airplanes. They had a flight department. And one of the local DPEs that gave me, that I'd done all my check rides with, knew the chief pilot. And he says, I was going to get my multi with him. And he says, with the DPE, he had their own little multi-training school, and they still do it. He's no longer around, but his wife does it now. But anyways, he said, I'll introduce you to him. So I said, all right, great. Right? So he introduced me, and he said, yeah, I work for Old Dominion. I would love to fly for you, or fly with you, or whatever I have to do to get my foot in the door, right? He said, oh yeah, we'll take you on some trips. And back then, they had a 501, an S2. I think that might have been all they had at the time, the S2 and a 501. Anyways, they would go to Wilmington a lot, take the owners down there for the weekend. They'd go down on Thursday, come back Sunday. They'd take them down on Thursday, pick them up on Sunday. He says, at the time, I think a couple of their pilots could fly single pilot when they were empty. They had some kind of,
Envoy 3311.
you know, with their insurance, where if the owner was on board, and the owners were typed, both the owner and his son were typed in the airplane. So they would fly with the chief pilot down there, and then the chief pilot could fly back empty, a single pilot, right? They started doing that, and then he said, I'll bring you along on those trips, and you can fly on empty legs, right? And then it was getting to the point where the insurance was starting to get strict. This was probably in the, I don't know, late 90s, mid to late 90s. Insurance started saying, we're not going to do the single pilot thing anymore. They were ended up having to train every 6 months to keep that current. They're like, it's cheaper just to hire a co-pilot. So they started hiring co-pilots. So eventually I was flying for free in the beginning just to get a little time. And then he's like, we'll pay you a little something. Just send us an invoice, right? We'll pay you. So it might have been like $100 a day or $200 a day just for the Wilmington little trip, you know, a couple hours out of your day. And then I'd go to my trip trucking, you know. I gradually got my foot in the door there. And I was hoping to get on full time, but each time I'd get close, something would come up. They ended up I think one of the nephews was furloughed from United, so they brought him on board, and that was kind of going to be my slot. So I lost out on that. And then they hired another guy because he was an A&P. They wanted an A&P mechanic that would help out with some of their maintenance stuff, or light maintenance, you know. And they could oversee some of the maintenance even if he wasn't doing it, which makes sense financially. But anyway, so I waited. I would patiently bid my time, and I was flying for other people part-time, doing contract stuff, flying stuff like this, like the Baron and Bonanzas. And then eventually I did get on full-time with Old Dominion flying, and I flew for them for 6 months full-time with that original chief pilot that hired me. And then eventually he was let go, and they brought on another chief pilot. I'm not going to say any names. I didn't really care for him, but I can get along with anybody, but there was a lot of people that did not like him. But anyways, I knew it was shaky. It was one of those situations where you felt like you had to kiss his butt and follow him around like a, you know, like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm not all about that. I mean, I'll work my butt off for you, but don't ask me to act like I'm just kissing up to you all the time. Just, you know, that kind of situation. But eventually the economy tanked in 08. You know, we had that recession. They ended up selling a plane. So I went back to driving full-time. And then I was still flying stuff like this. And dabbling in some jets. Getting some right seat time in some jets, other jets. And then one of the guys that I fly the Bonanza for, his best friend owns a company, local company. And he was leasing time in the Bonanza. That's how I got introduced with him. And he kept saying, you know, I'm going to have my own plane someday. He was kind of all over the board with what he wanted. He didn't really know. He was just getting into using private aviation. He really didn't know what he wanted, what would fit his mission. And his mission was changing. You know, it was kind of local at first, and then it's growing and growing. Growing exponentially. He needs to travel more. But he started out small with like Bonanza. He was dry leasing some Cirrus airplanes. Then he had some deal down in Sanford where he dry leased
approach Cirrus 246
I think a TBM, even a Piper Meridian for a little while, TBM, and a Mustang jet. A little Mustang jet.
229 Whiskey,
and then he was dry leasing the Beach jet that I was flying, and he kind of got me to fly on that deal.
246 Julia Pop, you said you need to...
I was going to go to school with that. He was going to buy into that, a quarter share or something of that plane.
The weather, I'd like to just go below.
That never worked out. That really wasn't a good deal for him to buy into that.
Just
the premise of it sounded good, but on paper it just wasn't making sense. So he's like, I'm just going to buy my own airplane.
Number 246 Julia Pop.
And then when he bought the M2,
to the southwest.
In the beginning I was flying contract, just contract flying, and still working at Old Dominion with the goal that I was eventually going to quit when he got busy enough. And then he brought me on full-time, said we're going to go full-time, all out.
And last one was it?
I got benefits, got insurance, full-time, salary.
Number 1507 Sierra, you got the field to say?
And we're actually trading up to a CJ3 Plus.
1507 Sierra, Roger.
We were hoping that plane was coming in March. Then they said March, April. Then they said April, May. Now they're saying May, June.
Contact Washington Center 135.
So, I don't know. I really hope we get it into May or very beginning of June, because we got a trip in June.
Raleigh approach November 1305 Bravo.
We got trips in April that I'd like it for.
1305 Bravo, Raleigh approach.
Anyways.
November 1305
not going to happen.
Is about 21 miles northeast, 3,000 inbound.
Let's set our power. I did Richard Peak. We're going to change that to Lena Peak now.
1305 Bravo, UAP 28.
We go about 14.2.
1305 Bravo, Sky 1, it's just Cessna 172, 05 Bravo.
1305 Bravo, squawk 0440.
All right, so anyways,
0440, November 1305
so that's my story in a nutshell. We're truing out 190 something. We're doing 213 over the ground. We got a pretty good little tailwind, but it's from the side. We're on top of a lake.
305 Bravo, so contact 20 miles northeast of Raleigh.
Coming back, I filed 6. We might go up to 8.
6 runway 32.
Heading 140,
might stay down at 4.
November 1305 Bravo.
I don't know.
Air 514 Alpha and contact Greens approach 126.66. Actually, before you go, 514 Alpha got traffic.
That's it for my life story.
1 o'clock and 5 miles. South indicates 4.
We got 34 minutes to get to Beaufort.
We got that traffic on.
But now I'm in the situation. I'm flying the M2 single pilot. We're going to fly the 3 plus single pilot.
514 Alpha. Affirm this. Thank
But
you. Maintain the separation. Well, actually, you don't have to.
I bring people along sometimes, either
26.6
for them to build time, or if it's a longer trip and I feel like we need them, I pay them. Pay them a day rate to go along. We haven't done a lot of that.
Who
knows? We find the right candidate, you know, we may hire somebody full time. I don't know how that's going to work. We got to get busy enough. The M2, a great airplane. I love it. It flies great. It's a great performer. Great efficiency. We're a little limited on weight and balance. If I have, you know, the typical mission is 1 or 2 in the back, and me.
1305 Bravo.
There's only 2 in the back. Usually I can bring a co-pilot if the trip isn't real long.
Heading 180, November 1305 Bravo.
It depends on the mission too. If it's a real long trip, I can't top it off. I can top it off with 2 in the back and me.
3 Delta Delta in contact Seymour approach 123.72.
2372, 3 Delta Delta, good day.
2370.
70, 3 Delta. Seymour approach, bearing 683 Delta Delta 7000.
Aaron 683 Delta Delta Seymour approach, altimeter 3027.
27, 3 Delta Delta. Anyways, like I said, the M2 is a little limited. If I got 2 in the back and me, I can top it off with the 2 guys I typically bring, based on their weight, our baggage, and all that. If I brought a co-pilot, I'd have to trade fuel, you know. Whereas in the 3 plus, I can add a lot more, and it carries more fuel too, to boot. So usually my passenger load isn't going to limit me on what I can bring, so it doesn't limit the mission. That's where I'm at right now. There's been some trips that I would take somebody, but it's weight and balance wise I really can't, because you don't want to have to add a fuel stop for just because you brought another person. So, and then if they're overnights, you know, and we'd have to pay for a hotel or an extra hotel. Yeah, there's that. And I don't want someone to waste several, 2 days just to get, to end up getting in 2 hours of jet time, right? I'd rather it be a day trip where you can do boom, boom, you get your time and you go home. It's more beneficial. I hate for them to waste 2 days, especially if they could be making money at their regular job or if they're instructing or something. I want them to give up money over time. That's where I'm at with that. And like I said, who knows? We may hire another pilot. Long-term plan is probably step up from the 3 plus straight into the Latitude. Long-term picture. I don't think there's a big rush. I think he's saying like 3 years or something. Who knows? We'll see. I'm in no rush. I like flying the M2. I'm gonna like flying the 3 plus. The nice thing is it cuts down my workload as far as the range of it is so much better. The trips we have coming up, I could make non-stop in the 3 plus, and I can't do that in the M2. And the M2, actually, if the winds are bad, I might need 2 fuel stops. Who knows? So there's always that. Alright, that's it for my life story. I'm going to hold up my finger to symbolize that's where I'm done. Hopefully, maybe I'll speed this part up. Or edit this out. Winds are 250 at 6, 10 miles visibility, skies clear, 18.9, 3030. So we're going to do 26. Alright, so let's load that. Procedure, select approach, enter. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of there. We're going to get the camera, the close-up camera. How about that? Alright, we're going to try to sync it. 1, 2. Alright. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get closer. We're going to hit procedure, select approach, hit enter. I'm going to scroll down to 26, 26, enter. Vectors is fine. We're going to hit enter. Arrow, and we're going to put 260. 270. Enter. Load. Alright, so it's in there, and then I hit flight plan to get out of that. And that's all there is to that. So we're good to go. Alright. Hopefully that'll help me sync it. I don't know. I'm not real good at that. Alright, so I'm going to put a top of descent. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hit a flight plan. And then I want to put 0 feet across from Beaufort. Right? Or 0 foot AGL. Right? Technically. So we go 0. And then I change it from MSL using the outer knob to AGL. Hit enter. It changed it to 0 feet because we're sea level down there. I hit enter, enter. Oops. Didn't want that. Go back.
Army Copter 20325, Seymour Jackson approach.
And then I'm going to scroll down to the vertical speed and change that to 500 foot a minute. Hit enter, and then hit flight plan to get out of it. And it gave me a top of descent right there. Right? And then if I go to flight plan, it'll count down. We're going to go down in 5 minutes, 46 seconds. It's counting down to our top of descent. That's how long we've got. And it's kind of nice to do that to help me decide when to go down without ending up being real high at the airport. So there you go. We'll save that.
Minimums.
Continue. Off at the bird. Oh, birdie. Boy, he was close. Alright, we'll roll down to them.
Beaufort traffic, citation right base 26, Beaufort.
And Beaufort traffic bearing 3 Delta Delta is clearing 21 at the end. Going to the right. Alright, well thanks for riding along. Sure, like, share, subscribe.
Beaufort traffic citation based on final 26 Beaufort.
Alright, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.